if it comes down to Trump versus Biden or DeSantis versus Biden, and I'm in Virginia, I think I would go cast a vote for Biden because for all the issues he has far surpassed my expectations. But now it complicates it even more because Cornel West is running, and I fucking love Cornel West, and he's way more in alignment with my politics. So if I was in New York, I probably would still vote for Cornel West and not for Biden. So anyway, tell me your thinking and why you're more or less convinced that it's the right thing to do to go Cornel West.
All right, gotcha. A lot to respond there.
Yeah, sorry about that spiel.
No, you're great. That's a lot of good stuff. So first of all, I do live in a safe state. I live in Missouri, which is 100% going to go red. It does every year, at least, during my lifetime. At one point, not so much. But nowadays, solidly red state. Joe Biden's not going to win it. In my opinion, it's going to go to the Republicans no matter who I vote for. So I'm going to vote for Cornel West in the general election, despite acknowledging, and I think it is important for us lefties to acknowledge that, yes, Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils, and I would much rather him be president again than Donald Trump be president again. I think it's a huge red flag of a faux populist when you start hearing people like Jimmy Dore making the argument that actually Trump is the lesser of two evils, and he's
that is literally
less of a fascist.
Just to be clear, that is of all the things he said, that is by far and away the dumbest shit I've ever heard him say. And for Sam Cedar to chime in and say, I'll debate him, I was watching that like, if he doesn't want to do it, I'll fucking do it. I'll do it. Because that shit is, are you like, do you have any brain cells left to make that argument? Like, that's the thing I don't like. He's a narrative humper and he's a terminal contrarian. So he has his narrative, which is like, actually, Democrats are the bigger evil. And it's like, if you follow the news at all in modern day, you would know for sure that it's factually false. Or you do know that and you're lying because you're a narrative humper and you're sticking to your narrative no matter what. So anyway, sorry, I interjected there to show how pissed off I was over that.
And by the way, I think it's okay to reject the lesser of two evilism idea or that dynamic. If you say, okay, well, obviously Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils.
Correct.
But I don't want to participate and I'm going to cast a protest vote. That's fine, but don't fucking pretend that Trump is the lesser of two evils. That's ridiculous. So yeah, I do live in a safe state, and I would actually take it further than you, Kyle. You said if someone lives in a safe state, then you think it's totally fine to vote for a third party or Green Party candidate. I would actually go further than that. I would say if you live in a solidly red or solidly blue state, and there's a Green Party candidate as good as Cornel West on the ballot, then you almost have no excuse not to vote for that candidate, right? Because if you're living in Missouri or California on the flip side of that, then your vote is meaningless, honestly. And let's be honest about the presidential election. Unless you live in like one of 6 or 7 states, the vote you cast for president is one of the most meaningless things you're ever going to fucking do. Because of the Electoral College, it doesn't matter, honestly, unless you live in fucking Georgia, right? At this point. So I think that's something that needs to be said, and I wish that more people would understand how meaningless their vote for president is, because if more people employed my logic of, well, if I live in a state that's definitely going to go red or definitely going to go blue, so therefore I might as well just vote for the Green Party. I think if more people realize that, then the Green Party by now would have reached that 5% threshold that is necessary to get federal funding. And that's another reason why I'm very committed to getting Cornel West to 5%. I think that, yes, ranked choice voting is massively, massively important, and that we do need to work on making that a reality before third-party candidates can truly flourish. But I think almost equally important is getting the Green Party to 5% in a national election. That way they can get federal funding and matching funds. That'll make them a much more formidable force in the next general election. And also, I think that there is definitely a lot to be said about ranked choice voting. Zach and I are huge advocates of it. And I think it's hugely important for the third party movement. But if you do look at some previous examples of third party victories, one that Zach and I have studied is Jesse Ventura's election as a third party governor in Minnesota. It actually was him getting on the debate stage that really made a difference in that. He was far, far behind in the polls, losing to the Republican Norm Coleman and the Democrat Skip Humphrey, who were much more established politicians in the state of Minnesota. He was like far behind them, basically just considered like a joke candidate until there was debates. And then Jesse Ventura, through his ability to contrast his populist perspective with the corporate Democrat and the corporate Republican, it immediately changed, basically overnight after that debate. Now, obviously, not everyone is as talented and charismatic as Jesse Ventura, but I would argue that Cornel West comes pretty close. And if we could get a Ross Perot kind of situation where he is able to, crack 10, 15% in a general election poll and get on the debate stage, I think that would be huge. I mean, I think that would be a fucking earthquake. Like, people would immediately wake up and realize this is okay, go ahead.
Yeah, let me interject, because Ross Perot is actually the example I was going to bring up, which is the example of the most successful independent run for president at the national level. And he got, I believe the number was, I'm actually trying to look it up right now, but I think the number
18,
was
18%.
Yeah, I thought it was 19. Okay, 18% of the
it's
vote.
It's like 18 and change, but it's not quite 19.
But he got 0 electoral college votes. And also, it's widely agreed upon among historians that he's like the main reason why Bill Clinton
won.
Was able to win, right? So in a weird way, that sort of makes the resistance liberal argument, where it's like, okay, so do you want to hand it over to Trump by giving a significant chunk of the vote to a third-party candidate who's not going to win, and just sort of split the vote of anybody who's center or left of center and just hand all the right-wing votes over to one person? Because obviously Cornel West is on the left, so he's going to take more, in theory, from a Democratic candidate. So look, my point is this. I think we should, if you get rid of first past the post voting and you do ranked choice voting and you get it tomorrow, I would literally be like a Green Party cheerleader. I would become like an evangelist for them. Because then then you are, by definition, you're serious. Because even whether or not people believe in the idea of a spoiler or they don't, it almost doesn't matter, because it's all about the perception of people that there is a spoiler effect, right? And that's real, that people have a perception of it, even if it's true or not. And so, but if you do ranked choice voting and get rid of first past post voting, then you immediately get rid of any objection to having an independent candidate or a third party candidate. And then I genuinely think overnight, the Green Party becomes more viable. The Libertarian Party becomes more viable. You could come up with some new party. You could run as an independent, and that would become more viable. So I guess my frustration is, like in this discussion, everybody always puts the cart before the horse. And I autistically am like, why are you putting the cart before the horse? Like, do it the other way. And then like, I'm there with you. But when you don't do it, it makes me feel like it's sort of delusional in a sense.
Well, can I take a crack at that one, Kyle?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that what it is, and this would be my pushback, right, is just that, and maybe you have a different experience. I wonder if it's a little bit, if more people are plugged in the DC area. But I feel like the reason that a lot of people put so much pressure on the the 4-year cycle, of presidency, is it's because that's when you get people's eye on the ball, and I do understand that you're playing with fire when you're dealing with a third-party candidate and you're facing a guy like Donald Trump. But I think that the worry is that it would be infinitely more difficult because of how stressed out everybody is, because of how spread thin everybody is, and because the media machine already trains everybody and is incentivized to keep their eyes on the horse race, because that's a profitable mechanism. I think a lot of people just feel like it can be harnessed to get a third party off of the ground in a way that it might not be able to be harnessed to get something like ranked choice voting off the ground. And I think that as a YouTuber, obviously we're completely jaded, right? But if you look at our, like Gavin one time, he spent 12 hours in his room cutting this super in-depth video essay about why ranked choice voting in Maine was super important, and everybody should take a look at it because this was 2020. It was a hot button issue, and it got 86 views. You start making clips about the horse race, electoral politics, you get a lot more engagement. So I just think that's why people decide to put the cart before the horse, is because otherwise that horse might not move.
I also just think people are sick and tired of waiting. But sorry,
that's more of a and I hear you, but that's more like the point that I'm making. To do those things, it's more of like a procedural and administrative type argument, not that it needs to be this big public show. We're going to get ranked choice voting and we're going to get rid of first past post voting. It's more of like, and this is where knowing how to play politics really works. If you get people who are experts at this stuff and basically insider lobbyists at this stuff, and you can get them to talk to the right people, give the right campaign contribution. It's sort of like how with Wolfpack and Cenk, and he started the whole thing, let's get money out of politics or whatever, and they're trying to get a constitutional convention, and they certainly hit a brick wall, but they got I don't know how many states it was, I'm just guessing, over 10 or 12 states or something like that, to actually pass at the state level a call for a constitutional convention to get money out of politics. Now, why was that the case? Because they were able to, they hired people who knew what they were doing, they knew what strings to pull, they knew who to talk to, and I think that And because to do ranked choice voting and getting rid of first past the post voting, you could do it on a state by state basis. And so I think like you actually can get that done. And by the way, Andrew Yang, for my many flaws, for the many flaws he has, my many disagreements with him, when he started his Forward Party or whatever, one of their main things was like, we want to get ranked choice voting everywhere. And like my counter argument to him was like, you should make that like your only thing. Like this should be a single issue attempt and not even necessarily a political party. But like, I guess my point is I don't think it's possible until you get rid of first past the post voting and you get ranked choice voting. So I just wish people were a little more serious about the steps to get this stuff accomplished. And I don't really see that happening. But I will say, I do sort of co-sign the idea that, in safe states in particular, it is a good, like, I think you should sort of cast the moral vote and the virtuous vote. I sort of agree with Gavin on that point. I just don't want to give people false hope about it in the sense that I'm like, hey, with you doing this, it's going to like usher in the revolution, because it's not. It's like until we get rid of those structural things in the way, I kind of view it, is my final point, I'll let you guys talk. I kind of view it as self-disenfranchisement, right? Like Cornel West is running in the Green Party, or it was the People's Party, and thankfully he listened to his critics and went to the Green Party. That was a good move.
Yeah, free tweet.
But like he would be polling way higher if he ran as a Democrat. And I think everybody knows that, right? Like when Jill Stein ran, she actually had a good run compared to other third-party runs. And one time she got like 3% or something like that, which again is good for a Green Party candidate. Whereas Bernie Sanders got like 45% of the vote, and he's basically like a Green Party candidate who's running from within the Democratic Party. You know what I'm saying? So however rigged people think it is by the DNC against progressives, and by the way, there are a lot of structural hurdles there, and they do try to put their thumb on the scale, and they do influence it in a negative direction. But however rigged that is, it's like 10 times more rigged the third party way, and that's why I get frustrated. And honestly, I blame myself a little bit because I was, I view politics in a very like principled morality, what's the right way to do it kind of way. And I sort of let that cloud my logical judgment in terms of how to actually win and actually get W's on the board. And so I sort of fed into this hysteria of like the third party stuff. And you have these people who have become totally nihilistic, and they'd rather like, you hear people say like, I don't want to do, like doing nothing is actually morally superior. And it's like, no, that's not accurate. Yeah.
Anyway, the accelerationists and all that stuff. 100%. And to be honest, you talk about the false hope that the Green Party represents. Yes. Are there a couple like terminally online people that think that like voting for Cornel West 2024 is going to usher in the revolution and be the end of the duopoly? Like, yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of those people out there. I think, however, that the vast majority of people that vote Green in any election, myself included, do recognize it at this point to be a protest vote, with like the most hope being getting that candidate to 5%. I think that most people do recognize that. And I don't say protest vote to like demean the idea of third party voting, because I also have only ever voted for Green Party candidates. I've only been eligible to vote in 2 presidential elections, 2016 and 2020. I voted for the Greens in both those elections. So I'm definitely not above casting a protest vote. I mean, I fucking love to protest. So why not cast a protest vote? Like I said, casting a vote for president is already meaningless if you live in the state that I live in. So might as well cast a protest vote and, sign off on a candidate that actually more aligns with my values. As far as the ranked choice voting thing, I'm 100% for ranked choice voting, and I completely agree with you, Kyle, that it would make the third-party movement so much stronger, so much more viable. The only question I'd have for you is your philosophy on that? Like, basically, until every single state has ranked choice voting, it's really not even worth engaging in the third-party movement or battle?
Well, no, because like I said, I voted for about the same number of third-party candidates as I have Democrats in my life. And like I said, if you're in a safe state, I do kind of agree that it makes sense to vote for the Green Party for sure. Vote for a better candidate than a Democrat for sure. But I guess the reason why I always bring that up, and almost to the point of like autistically bringing it up, is that nobody brings up that point in the discussion. And it's like, so people seem to be deluding themselves into thinking like this is possible while still having first past the post voting and not having ranked choice voting. And I'm sitting there like, it's literally just not possible. Can we stop pretending?
Welcome to a very special edition of the Nick and CJ show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's great to be back. Welcome to an additional show of Nick and CJ. I wasn't planning on going live today, but as I said yesterday, we saw Jimmy Dore pack Marianne Williamson the fuck up and ended what was left of that pathetic campaign. Those clowns I don't care about. They doing their shit lib nonsense. Like that's their big debate. And their cowardice have been well documented because they make tweets bragging about their willingness to debate people, and in those tweets they get ratioed with people saying, "Why are you not debating Nick? Why are you not debating Pasta? Why are you not debating this person?" They ducked the debate from Jackson Hinkle, fam. They were scared to debate Jackson Hinkle.
Shameful.
They're afraid to debate our friend Pasta, who I debated yesterday. They launched an unhinged mirror on Fiorella and Pasta, calling them like Putin puppets, right? Secret right-wing agents. So they like, can you guys back this up? And of course they can. They're just lying propagandists who get away with it because what do we tell you guys? All you gotta do is be white and say something confident in front of camera, and people will buy it. No matter how many times these people have lied to their audience. And now the most hilarious thing is how they're going to react now that Jimmy Dore put their favorite candidate, their favorite politician, in a body bag. Jimmy Dore, and you guys think it's a coincidence that the same people who have Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome to the max are also Marianne Williamson supporters? Now you guys see why.
No, not a coincidence. Not a coincidence.
Now you guys see why.
And Nick, I don't know what you're talking about when you're talking about the Vanguard. The Vanguard, they don't dodge anybody, sir. And they made a video about it right here. This almost was the intro video, but I was like, I needed a longer video. I was still getting dressed, and this is only 10 minutes.
I can't do too much of these people, but
let me just play 60 seconds. 60 seconds. They are calling out people for dodging debates.
Jimmy Dore, who keeps dodging this debate, even after challenging quote unquote anybody to a debate.
Well, Joe Biden is a bigger fascist than Donald Trump, and I'll debate anybody on that. That's just a fact, but I'll debate anybody on that.
He seemingly will not debate literally anyone. So that's pretty funny. This was pretty funny. Sam Seder went on Sitch and Adam, which was cool to watch. I did check out that.
That's enough. I can't. I was going to let it play some more, but that's enough. But you get what I'm saying. This whole entire, look at the title. Jimmy Dore created a safe space to help from him.
Yeah, they dodge debates and do business as well. Literally, so many people call these people out for debates because they're easy prey. Like, you know, they're not. How many people are lining up to debate me? how many people line up to debate Rome? They got people knocking on their door every damn day. They hiding. They're hiding in their own shit-lived safe space. Marianne Williamson is safe in their safe space. How many times did Marianne Williamson had interviews with Kyle Kalinske in the Vanguard where they just getting along? She's looking great for the audience because they know what buttons not to touch. She goes on RB and she rage quits. She goes on Jimmy Dore. Her campaign gets buried in front of 14,000 people. She was a candidate and a political figure that was a product of softball interviews by the Bernie Media Industrial Complex. And it's funny because they actually did a disservice to her because by holding her hand, they have her unprepared for moments when she run into a Jimmy Dore. When she ran into me, I call her out for a two-state solution nonsense, and then she ended up calling me a mansplainer. And I was on Steph, and she's surprised she didn't call Jimmy a mansplainer. I'm still confused about that, right?
Because she only feels comfortable. This is my assessment, and I'll own it. She feels comfortable, like she uses that tactic anytime she can, but she feels most comfortable in using it and presses it harder for people she feel is less than her. That's why when she was here, she was like, I'm hitting that shit harder. She tried to do it with Jimmy. He's like, oh, God, stop doing that. I'm calling it out right now. So stop doing that. So you can't do that later. And So that's my assessment, is that she uses it all the time. When she's losing, it's, oh, you won't let me talk. What's going on? I'm a woman. You won't let
Why
me.
you being mean to me?
Yes, that's what.
Why you being mean to me? Like, and that make my skin crawl, because she learned how to weaponize white women tears to perfection. You know, it's the second that the interview got hard, she's immediately started weaponizing her white women tears. The same way she did against me, the same way she did against Marcel. Remember Marcel when he pressed her on reparations in South Carolina, and then she weaponized her white tears against him and all of us. And she can't really get away with it as much with people who are considered her peers. Jimmy around the same generation, around the same status, right? But when you have me and Marcel that talk to her, that's when she loses her mind. And we played this Fox News interview with her where this Fox host was unbelievably belligerent, like mocking her as a serious candidate, constantly interrupting her. But she was in the group with him, like, he's like, I see what you're doing, but let's keep going. She was in the corporate media jam. She wasn't upset with him because she understand that was his job. So when she's on corporate media, it's okay when she's grilled on corporate media. But she go on a network for our black people, us peasants better show her the respect that she deserves. You guys see how she has a different attitude towards us versus towards people who she considered her peers? When she on CNN, Fox News, it doesn't matter how they treat her. Even Jimmy Dore, she was getting upset. But I was extremely gentle. Like, especially because look at my interview yesterday with Pasta. Well, I'm also nice, right? But I was way harder on Pasta than I was with Marianne Williamson. And Marianne Williamson fucking crumbled. Absolutely crumbled under pressure. And we're looking for any way out. And you guys saw our last summit. We do this all the time where we have RBN hosts coming in, right? How many times have we had guests on an RBN host come in early, kind of off cue? It happens all the time. She used that as an excuse. Oh, no, they had they ambushed me. Nigga, I gotta get out of here. And then white people was like, oh, my God, look, RBN. They jumping that white woman. She know what she's fucking doing. So we sniffed this shit out. And this is why you had her former campaign employees that quit, who she threatening legally with NDAs, who's pretty much begging, doing every sign that they legally can, putting back signals up, doing secret emojis so we can understand the code. Like, please, guys, do not support Marianne. We can't say that much, or this rich white woman will sue us. But don't support her because they see this woman as a psychopath. And when you watch the Jimmy interview, you're watching a psychopath, someone who's not used to being pressed, someone who's used to everyone kissing her boots, saying, man, Marianne, you're so smart. You're so wise. Man, I read your book, man. That book was great. Meanwhile, Jimmy's not buying it. Meanwhile, on our show, we're not buying it. I don't give a fuck who she is. The only thing that matters is the quality of your ideas. And whenever she's in an environment where her ideas is the only thing that matters, she crumbles.
Yeah, so or if she's questioned. But to your point, before we get deep in the discussion, good thing that
I'll be right back.
Jimmy Dore was good enough to put the video out already, so we don't have to go through so many clips because he has the video out. But to Nick's point about trying to do that same thing to Jimmy, let's play a short clip before we get into that. So let's play this clip. I recorded this on my phone. Is this the one I recorded on my phone? I think it is. So the sound is decent, but it's not the same as any regular audio. But let's listen to what she says.
Because that's
so you're still
you know that, Jimmy.
So okay. So you're I mean you're the one who said the reason why we don't take that money and give it to homeless people is because of corporate corruption. And that's why we take the money and give it to corporations in the form of military aid to Ukraine. You're the one who just said that.
However, no.
So you're for corporate corruption in Ukraine before we fix homelessness.
Can I get in there? I mean,
please stop pretending that I'm not letting you talk. Okay, stop doing that.
Bro, after Jimmy said that, he's in absolute shambles, fam.
Because she don't even acknowledge. She's like, oh, wow, I'm being called out on my white woman fragility play.
Because she knows
so
what she's doing.
Can't really go into it. So now she has to backtrack and stay in the vicinity of answering the question. That's why this interview was so terrible, like her answers, because she know she can't go deep into details because she doesn't know that much. So she falls back on that. I'm fragile. I'm a white woman that's fragile. I'm in distress, right? So to back away from detail. But he's like, no. We're staying here in the detail right here with this question. We're not going nowhere. Stop doing that. And he continues to say it. He says it like 2 more times. Let's listen.
You've always been an honorable interviewer with me before. And
I'm being so right now. So quit pretending.
However, the fact that there are some neocons with whom on this issue, I agree on some things. You could talk about Matt Gaetz. You would talk about Matt Gaetz and his views on Africa.
The thing is, we were listening to that, Nick, to hear that line, her say that, but then I let it play so you can hear. She said, because I agree with some neocons on some issues, she doesn't understand how terrible that sounds. Yep. On what issue is it okay to agree with neocons, Nick? On what issue? Let's listen.
I know they lied to us before. I know they lied to us before, but I'm sure that Mike Pompeo is telling the truth this time. I'm sure that Anthony Blinken is telling the truth this time, CJ. I know they lied to us before. I know they're making mountains of corporate profits, but it had nothing to do with that. We care about the Ukrainian people. That's the fairy tale that Marianne Williamson was trying to tell in front of 14,000 people on the Jimmy Dore show. And Jimmy Dore, being a comedian, just laughed at her and make her look like a fool with absolute ease. Let's continue, because I want to try more on that. And the theme I want to continue on later is that you guys realize this interview is exactly why the theory that I had that I said months ago, where the NATO left, the Bernie Sanders left, was given strict instructions not to talk about this shit. And now you guys see why. Marianne Williamson fucking up and not following the memo properly. But anyway, let's continue.
Just listen to this part and then we'll move to the next one.
This issue, I agree on some things. You could talk about.
Oh, I didn't go back further enough. Hold on 1 second. I got to have you guys listen to this. Listen to when she says, because I agree with neocons.
The fact that there are some neocons with whom on this issue, I agree on some things. You could talk about Matt Gaetz. You could talk about Matt Gaetz.
I did not hear that. So, I'm hearing a lot of this for the first time.
Oh, God. That's a good one.
I was waiting. I could have dived into this last night, but I chose not to. Right?
No, I watched it. You know how I knew we were doing the show is because I went back and watched the stream and I was like, oh, we're doing the show today, because I didn't say I wasn't doing the show. I just hadn't even thought about what I was doing. I was like, he's right. We got to cover this. We got to cover this.
Because I just saw the one clip that I played on our show. I'm like, I got to wait. I got to go live into this, because that Marianne is getting dissected by Jimmy. Jimmy see through all this, the tricks that she plays, and it works for liberal audiences.
Do you think she asked to go on his show, or he invited her on?
Y'all talking this stuff like we had no idea why she agreed to do this. None at all. I text Jimmy after this. He like, no idea why she agreed to do this at all. Like she has this hubris where she thinks she's gonna go on your show and she's gonna filibuster and say flowery words with no substance and win over your audience with no pushback. And if you have the audacity to put back on her, she's gonna try to intimidate you. She tried to do that to me, and she tried to do that to Jimmy, and it failed. And many weak access journalists like Kyle, Crystal, the Vanguard, they let Marianne Williamson come on, and they starstruck because Marianne Williamson knows Oprah. So they happy that they are in her presence. They just stare there like, oh my God, the Orb lady is speaking the Orb truth. And Marianne speaking and no follow-up questions. And that's what she wants to do. And for whatever fucking reason, I guess maybe because Jimmy and Marianne have previous interactions in the past, maybe she thought that she can go on the Jimmy Dore show and Jimmy would just let her do her fucking campaign ad, because that's what you expect from independent media, and it backfire in spectacular fashion. Show her hubris. Like, it's the same way that when Ro Khanna go on Brown or Joy Gray, whenever Ro Khanna go on a few independent media, it's the hubris that he believes that he's going to trick us. He's going to trick us with his political jujitsu. And Marianne Williamson is so used to people idolizing her, falling for her cult-like messaging, being part of the Oprah fear. She's not used to the harsh political battle of ideas. Like, this is not a game. And she was saying this in the last election. I still remember the clip when she said, man, the Democrats are ruthless. Like, they even want coming after me. I'm like, ma'am, you know you're running for president, right? Remember that article where she said, man, I feel like there's a coordinated effort to take our political campaign. I'm like, yes, that's every single candidate.
Yes,
there's a coordinated effort to take out Ron DeSantis. There's a coordinated effort to take out Mike Pence. There's a coordinated effort to take out Donald Trump. Coordinated effort to take out Joe Biden. Coordinated effort to take out Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. That is literally what it means to be a political candidate. But meanwhile, Marianne Williamson, like, why are people so mean to me? Back when I used to do my old book tours, people used to like me. Anyway, go ahead.
When I went back and looked at, to your point, why she would go on Jimmy Dore, or to answer the question, why she may, I mean, she had to have known his views on certain things, the pandemic, on and Ukraine, because those are probably the two top topics that he talks about. Are those two. But what may have made her feel comfortable is that I did look up the past interview, and it was a very cordial interview because there wasn't any sort of adversarial nature. It was just, this is the presidential candidate. Tell us about what you're talking about, kind of like an informational sort of thing. He wasn't necessarily advocating for her. He was just here to interview the candidate. So maybe, and it was a long interview. It was like 30 minutes. So maybe she felt, oh, since, we're, you're not a peasant, you're in a, middle class to upper class. I don't really know what he is. So I'll use a couple of middle class, upper class, high class. You're in this class like me. So, you're going to treat me okay, because we're in the same class, right, guy? Right. You know what I mean? She thinks that's what's kind of going to happen. I think that's what she thinks mainly when she goes on most of these shows. Is that's her sort of outlook, is that we're in the same class. Come on now. This is politics, but come on. It's not real life for us, because we don't need any of this stuff. So go ahead, Nick, if you were going to say.
Yeah, you know how she immediately weaponized civility politics. And that one thing, the same thing she did to us, then the same thing she attempted to do with Jimmy, and Jimmy and Steph and their team, seeing her weaponization of civility politics, which is extremely popular among the bourgeoisie class, like Marianne Williamson and her cohorts. For example, they don't want to have conversations with us at RBN because we consider it uncivil, but more of a class thing, because the working class must be civil to them. If you're asking Nick, what do you mean by that? Crystal Ball and a lot of these same people had interviews with Vosh, and Vosh called Brianna Joy Gray subhuman garbage. He literally called Crystal Ball a right-wing Nazi. So Vosh is uncivil, but he's allowed to because he comes from parents, rich parents that live in the Hamptons. They live in a rich neighborhood. So when you're in the upper class, you're allowed to be uncivil, but as poor, we better show respect. And that's what she does when she weaponizes civility like that, especially when she getting growth from the left. And one of the most important things about this is why I was most interested in watching this interview, because I knew that Jimmy would lean into this. I wonder what the reaction from the Marianne Williamson camp, the progressive camp, going to be. Like, I think they may disown Marianne Williamson after this. And I will see, because it's just an early prediction, because she fucked up. Remember, they had a rule: we don't debate NATO and Ukraine with these motherfuckers, because we don't want to be exposed. We can't expose the narrative to the degree we will be exposed if we go on the Jimmy Dore show, if we go on RBN. So Marianne Williamson fucked up and went on her show and thought she was going to do fucking spirit orb jiu-jitsu and trick our audience to support funding Nazis in Ukraine. And now that interview is not only a giant loss for her campaign and a giant win for people like us who want to expose the progressive neocons, it's a giant loss for the NATO left, because I don't know if you guys see on Twitter, these clips are everywhere. Like, Marianne Williamson destroyed on Ukraine. And people are seeing over and over again the NATO left complete inability to defend their positions. And Marianne Williamson, even though she's not an impressive debater, she used all the argument tactics. She used all the talking points of the NATO left. And we're going to watch some more clips here where Jimmy just easily dismantled them. in order to be supportive of the Ukraine war, in order to be supportive of NATO, like Marianne Williamson is, you have to be a dum-dum. You have to purposely keep yourself low info so you don't learn about the 2014 coup. You don't learn about how the CIA helped train neo-Nazis in Ukraine. Like, and that's why Jimmy pointed that out. He wanted to point out the lack of knowledge of the NATO left. That's why he keep bringing up, like, you don't know that we're funding the entire Ukrainian government, including their salaries. And then she tried to avoid answering that, like, well, why you keep asking me if I know? Because it's kind of important. It's kind of important because your position is based on ignorance if you don't know these things. And that's what they always do. Whenever these people are grilled on these issues, they're like, oh, well, I don't know about that. I think that's a dubious. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Of course you don't know, because ignorance is your guy's strength. It's the only way you guys.
Yeah, remember Bernie Sanders did that? He was like, oh, I don't know too much about those things. I don't know. So I don't, yeah, remember that?
Thank you, CJ, for bringing that up. That's the perfect example. Bernie Sanders voted for all these aid packages. He's in the Senate, so you get briefings. But he's pressed on this issue, and he's like, I don't have anything to do with it. Do you guys really believe that? I don't believe that. There's a lot of people like, oh, what do you mean Bernie? How Bernie not reading? He's 100% know what's going on. He was given orders not to speak on it. They say, hey, Bernie, you can do your little fancy Medicare for all, virtual signaling bullshit. You know it's not going to happen. You can do your little YouTube live streams and shit. We don't really give a fuck about that. But you better support Ukraine aid. You better not speak about it, because if you speak about it, the lack of knowledge that you got to pretend you have, it will be exposed. The same way it was exposed with Jimmy Dore. The same way these people refuse to go on RBN. They refuse to go on Convo Calls to justify their position. Right? They refuse to justify their position. You have Jordan Cheriton, who called Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate and Jimmy Dore Putin puppets in this very same interview with the Vanguard, where he said, well, I don't know that much about foreign policy. Jordan Cheriton was like, I don't know that much about foreign policy. It's not my specialty. But trust me, those people over there are Putin puppets. You guys see how that doesn't add up? They just, instead of debating these people and learning and actually being an intelligent leftist, not relying on just dumb vibes as you guys have been used to for years, informing yourself, having conversations like we have in RBN, correct? They just go on dumb vibes, going on the vibe of the Democratic Party. You can't justify Joe Biden to be the lesser of two evils the way that Jordan Cheriton and many of the NATO left has done if you acknowledge the reality of what's going on in Ukraine. So that's why they pretend to be dumb, because they acknowledge how corrupt Joe Biden is and the fact that he pushed us closer to World War III because of his foreign policy. Then it becomes hard to justify the conclusion that, Jordan and many of the channels is going to reach at 2024. But I went long enough. I'll pass to you, CJ.
Yeah, I think because he put out the clips, and I don't know if you heard what I said. He put out 2 clips. The when they talk about COVID and Fauci, we probably won't touch on. We probably shouldn't touch on that. And then the
Ukraine part is very, very revealing as well, too. Very revealing as well.
Yes, it is. So let's play the clip. The full clip that he puts out, and then we have other clips from online that fills in the gaps, like that's not covered yet. Yeah, so let's do that. You know how this goes. Let us know. We'll be stopping and starting this a lot. It's a 12-minute clip.
We have special guests with us. Marianne Williamson is here. She's a best-selling author, lecturer, activist, as well as a 2024 Democratic candidate for president of the United States. She previously ran in 2020, and in 1989, she founded Project Angel Food, a nonprofit that delivers meals to ill and dying homebound patients. In 2004, she co-founded the Peace Alliance, a nonprofit grassroots education and advocacy organization focused on increasing U.S. government support of peace-building approaches to domestic and international conflicts. Please welcome back to the show, Marianne Williamson. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Jimmy. It's nice to see you, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Now, last time we talked, you weren't sure about Medicare for All or Julian Assange, and I think you have different stances on both those things. How do you feel about Julian Assange now?
So let's stop there, because I do want to make the point. So Julian Assange and Medicare for All, we're talking in 3 years, she just got on board with that. Because in 2020 is when she ran, right? Yeah, 2020 is when she ran. And she was on the show, Jimmy's show, this is when she was against Julian Assange and she was against Medicare for all. So do we believe that somehow in 3 years she saw the light on these two huge left issues, not just regular, huge left issues? When she said, hey, I want to do this again and promote books, so I need to learn what these motherfuckers like. And they like this and this, so I need to change what I believe. Is that more likely, or did she learn something and change her views? Go ahead, Nick. You're going to chime in.
Now, CJ, what does it say about someone that at the tender age of 60, let's round down. I don't know her age, so let's round down.
She's 71 or something like that.
71. So let's say 65, just to be safe. So at the tender age of 65, 68, she decided that healthcare should be a human right, right? Now, these were things that I always inherently knew. I always like, man, healthcare should, why the fuck are people being charged by that? Now, the concept of single payer advocated by Joe Stein, the Green Party, and Bernie Sanders campaign opened that idea up as possibilities for the working class. But the working class and people are generally not against free healthcare. That's why the idea was always extremely popular. That's why the idea swept over every single developed nation. How are you, a 60-year-old woman who lived in the 2000s, the 90s, and you did not agree with universal health care? I promise you, if you ask people, should you be charged a shit ton with health care, even before the Bernie Sanders campaign, they would tell you no. Well, they would tell you they support Medicare for all? No, because they didn't know about it before Bernie. But people inherently wanted that to happen. That's why single payer was always a movement. That's why Nancy Pelosi advocated for it in the 80s. It always was a thing because people always had that moral compass. Was it always popularized? No, but it always had support. But Marianne was part of the people that did support it. Like, what the fuck? There was a party where you didn't support healthcare? Now, once again, I wasn't always a Medicare for all activist because I wasn't aware of the bill. But it was something I always inherently knew was correct. There was a large part of Marianne's life where she didn't inherently believe that was correct, which is just weird. But anyway, let's continue.
Absolutely.
No.
Take those charges down day one.
You would not prosecute him. You'd let him free. Let him go
Absolutely
free.
correct. Yeah, absolutely. On Julian Assange, when we spoke before, which was years ago now,
right?
I wasn't so sure. I'm certainly sure about that now. And on Medicare for all, you were one of the people that I think started to really change my mind. Actually.
Okay, so you're a full backer of Medicare for all.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
completely.
that certainly separates you from the rest of the Democratic primary pack, because Joe Biden is determined to not let people get health care. He didn't give us the public option he promised, and he's now repealing Medicare for people that had it during the pandemic. So, Marianne, how did the Democratic Party become the party of censorship and war?
Now, how did the Democratic Party become the party of censorship and war? So let me ask you this, Nick. What party we're talking about, let's look at the last several presidents. Barack Obama, I think he came in to the presidency, 2 wars going on, left with 7. I don't think Donald Trump started new wars. We see with Joe Biden, you got the Ukraine, and then you got him marching towards China. So for me, I didn't feel like this was a loaded question. I didn't feel like this was a question that most sort of intellectuals are calling the Democratic Party a war party. We've seen several articles with varying titles that talk about this. So I didn't think this was a question that the facts of the question was in question. But apparently Marianne Williamson does, and she takes issue. So let's listen.
Well, I don't. When it comes to being the party of war, I think both of them. I mean, when it comes to big oil and defense contractors, both the Republicans and the Democrats are in lockstep with their corporate donors on that. So I don't think of it as the party of war any more than the Republicans are. Actually, I mean, you can look at individuals, but I just think of the military-industrial complex as having.
Is it Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the clowns of the Republican Party? Aren't they leading the pack to defund this war? aren't Republicans the ones right now, even though, like you say, and I say all the time, we don't necessarily believe them, but at least they're publicly saying these things. They're the ones that want oversight. So for her to answer the question as if both parties at least are projecting two different messages. Go ahead.
So on both points, her hero, Bernie Sanders, who I couldn't get to condemn on my show, voted against oversight for military weapons to the most corrupt country in Europe. He don't even want oversight over that. And do you guys want to know what AOC's biggest criticism of Facebook is? Glenn Greenwald has done great segments discussing how the FBI is working with with Facebook and Facebook keep folding to pressure under the government to censor. But AOC's biggest criticism of Facebook is that Facebook does not censor enough. You guys know that? You know, remember the show trials when she's like, why you guys allowing hate speech to spread on your platform? Why is she doing that? Because she's advocating for censorship. AOC is the biggest advocate of censorship. When Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News, what did she say? She said deplatforming works. Now Tucker Carlson left Fox News, is more popular than ever. People say he might win the presidency. That's how popular he is now. The leading advocate for censorship are the progressive left. You have the AOC, Jamal Bowman's, Ilhan Omar's. They will critique the neoliberals in their party on censorship and pretend they are being on the left. You guys are weak on hate speech. Look at me, I'm progressive. That is not, you're not being a progressive, you're being an authoritarian. Because
they view.
Go ahead, CJ, go ahead.
I was gonna say liberals view their authoritarianism the same way that a police officer views their authoritarianism. By design of their job, they're authoritarians. They tell you what to do, but they believe they're telling you what to do for your own good. And that's what liberals think. That's what they think separates them, or that's the thing that prevents them from seeing or acknowledging that they are way more authoritarian, because it's for their good, guys. It's for the good. It's for their own good. It's cultural imperialism, really, on this way. But go ahead, Nick, if you had something else before we play the video. All right, so let's play back. Let's continue with the video.
Having its grip on both parties, actually. So it's really more, how did the U.S. government become so hostage to Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing? That is the question in my mind.
I mean, even people who don't take corporate money in the Democratic Party are for the Ukraine war, and they just vote for military budgets. They vote for that's the reason why it stands out, is because the Democratic Party was supposed to be a left party. They were supposed to be anti-war. Everybody always expected the Republican Party to be right-wing and pro-war, and so that's why it's a different thing now. And everybody in the Democratic Party votes for war. They're all war pigs, and there's a big faction of the Republicans who aren't. In fact, we just covered a story with Matt Gaetz, who wants us to get out of Africa. You'll never hear Democrats do that. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm not enrolled in your perspective on pro-war. I think that there are a lot of people who were very...
She's not enrolled in her perspective. She says this multiple times. Go ahead.
I want her to finish her answer, but she does this all the time. Whenever someone debunks her bullshit, she essentially says, well, I have alternative facts. I'm enrolled in a different belief system than you. That doesn't justify why you're wrong here. In the same way, when I pushed her on Bernie Sanders, and I explained to her how Bernie Sanders is a Democratic operative grifter who's funding the war machine with his votes. And then she said, well, if you feel that way, you shouldn't vote for me. I have a different belief system. And she says this all the time. It's the same thing as Republicans saying alternative facts. She has a different set of alternative facts than we do on war. Bernie Sanders has votes that directly leads to increase Raytheon and Boeing profits. It's not indirect. Not like, oh, there's a technicality here that led to fucking mistake here. No, it was his vote. Direct causation is the increase of profits of Raytheon and Boeing, right? But
Marianne, go ahead.
I'll pass to you, CJ. I'm sorry I've been too long here. But Marianne Williamson, like, I don't care if you say those facts to me. I don't care if you bring up votes to me. I don't care if you bring up geopolitical politics to me. I'm not enrolled in your facts. I believe in an alternative reality. Like, she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, fam. What, CJ?
Remember she did this? It was, I forget the question that was asked, but it was during the post-duopoly show. She was like, well, yeah, if you look at it one way, you can say it's that. Yes. And if you look at it the other way, it was like, oh,
yes, she does it all the time.
God, she does it all the time.
All the time.
All right, so let's play some more. She continues with this nonsense.
Very concerned about the power of the U.S. war machine.
Which ones would those be?
Well, for one, me. I mean,
no, I'm talking about Democrats in Congress or who are elected.
I can't speak so much about Democrats in Congress because I think of Democrats in Congress as so beholden to the corporate.
You're running against the Democratic Party, aren't you? Why are you afraid to name names? But let's continue.
Yeah, I don't get that strategy.
Corporatist Democratic leadership when push comes to shove. Obviously, I do. I wouldn't be running. Notice I'm running and they're not. So a lot of people who say they're progressives who are in Congress fall in line when it comes to that. But I think that there are many of us who do not look at it that way and still have a different view, perhaps, than you do.
What is your view on the Ukraine war?
I certainly am
wrong. She's like, yeah, there actually are a few people that are against the war. And then she immediately about to contradict herself. That's why I'm glad Jimmy brought it up. He's like, okay, if you think that you are some anti-war crusader, explain to me what you think about one of the most relevant geopolitical conflicts of our lifetime. Go ahead.
Now, Nick, let me say this before she answers the question, because this is one of the questions that's in, I think, the description. Because Marianne Williamson stands will to the death swear that she's anti-war. Like, it's an irritating person on Twitter. I think it's Helen something. It starts with his last name starts with a C.
There's a corrected record, boss. Marianne Williamson has a corrected record, the department. And they're very aggressive. These people are not.
Yes,
they're not
that's a good name for them. Correct the record.
No, for real. She's literally engaging in Hillary Clinton's tactics. Like, she has a corrected record department. These are the people you see trolling. Like, oh my God, RBN, why are you so mean to our favorite millionaire white lady?
Yeah. I'm sure some of you have encountered this person I'm talking about, but she swears and she would look. She's anti-war and posting these things, and I'm like. They have what the professional managerial class, and in particular the managerial class that's on the left, they have so mastered the art of changing the definition of words. And now these definitions are now elastic, where you can stretch them to mean more than they are. So you can be for funding a war. You're
like, CJ.
But then say, I'm anti-war. How is that even possible? But go ahead, Nick.
To your point, they said we are anti-war only when we get the geopolitical outcome that we want. That is not what it means to be anti-war. When you're anti-war, you acknowledge you're going to have concessions, you got to negotiate, and you got to have diplomacy. Marianne Williamson, like you're going to see throughout this interview, you're going to see throughout whenever the NATO left talk about this, they will say, well, we can't negotiate with Russia now because that will give Russia a victory. Sir, ma'am, are you anti-war or not? I am not anti-war as long as Putin get an L. That's what they are. We are anti-war as long as Putin doesn't win. We are anti-war as long as the United States doesn't lose. If you're anti-war, you want anti-war at all costs. That's why we keep asking you guys the question, is it really worth hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians over Crimea, Odessa, and the Donbass, areas that want to be Russia in the first place? Like, are you guys doing the cost-benefit analysis at all? Is it worth waging war for regions that don't want to be part of Ukraine?
Right.
They're like, well, I am anti-war, except that, though. What? Anyway, let's continue.
It almost feels like Marianne Williamson and those in the NATO left, it feels like they know the least, like that foreign policy is the thing they know the least about out of everything,
and they're happily
they talk
ignorant.
about. Yes, and they happily to stay ignorant. It's almost like they know what's behind that U.S. imperialism door. So they go, I'm not going over there. I'm not gonna open the door, guys. No, this is good. So that they can stay in what the State Department is telling them about this war. They avoid the ability to learn more. They avoid that ability or that access so that they can stay in this State Department talking points line about the Ukraine war. And it feels like that's because that's the sort of non-aggressive behavior that the professional managerial class is known for. Let's continue.
Do not look at it that way and still have a different view perhaps than you do on
what is your view on the Ukraine war?
Well, I certainly am not naive about how we got there. I certainly understand that the U.S. Poked the bear. I certainly understand about the Aegis missiles in Poland. I don't feel that I'm naive at all about how the U.S. war machine works. However, it's kind of like you look at someone like Dwight Eisenhower. On one hand, he is the man who coined the phrase military-industrial complex, and he was the supreme commander of all Allied forces in World War II. It's not an either-or. You can be aware.
She understands that she's not answering the question. Let's not, just for those that may be falling for this whole thing. Like,
she does this every time.
Like if you think she is just so inspired to talk about all these historical things in this moment, don't think that. This is a deliberate tactic not to answer questions. And I believe in particular, she's probably rehearsing not answering Ukraine questions because she knows this is her downfall. She knows that.
Yo, the Eisenhower military-industrial complex spill, she got this 100% rehearsed. Well said. Let's continue.
Yes.
That the military is profiteering in and causing a real terrible problem, as he realized after all that was over at the end of his presidency, and at the same time feel strongly that certain lines must be drawn, certain boundaries, and certain people must be stopped. So when you look at what happened last weekend in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, 40 nations coming together, that's very important what happened last weekend. With China, India was there, Brazil was there. And I think that many of us feel, I feel that actually the fact that Ukraine got some support that it's gotten from the United States and other Western nations is part of what has opened up the possibilities that exist right now for negotiation, because it will be other countries. This is not just.
That's the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. Fam, what she just said in front of 14,000 people live is that because the United States sent weapons to Nazis, they created a situation where peace is more likely. That is completely false. Russia, like in the beginning, Putin and Russia had plans to keep Zelensky in positions of power. Like if you look at their original ask, at no point did they ask for a new president. No point did they ask for Zelensky to step down. It was December of last year where Putin gave a speech where he was like, all right, after seeing how Zelensky and the Ukrainian government is corrupt and completely sold out to NATO and the West and continue to wage war against our people, their government as it exists right now cannot continue. So my point is, things got worse for Ukraine and peace got harder because Ukraine sided with NATO and the West and waged war and killed tens of thousands of Russian soldiers. So what Marianne Williamson is saying is the complete opposite of reality, where she's saying, well, the fact that the West and the world united around Ukraine created a situation where peace is possible. No, what created the situation where peace is possible is the fact that dumb morons are finally waking up to the reality that Ukraine can't defeat Russia. And how many dead Ukrainians did that take, ma'am? But let's continue, because I can unpack that stupidity forever, but I'm sure there's going to be more. So I'm going to let it continue.
Yeah, there will be more.
There's so much stupidity in just that little bit amount, but I'm going to hold my tongue here. I'm going to let it play a little bit more.
Just about what the United States says. Most things when it comes to military around the world, it's not a unipolar world anymore. It's multipolar. A lot of nations are involved in this. And so I think we should all be glad about what's seems to have begun to happen in Saudi Arabia last weekend.
So I'm trying to figure. So you're saying you support Joe Biden's policy in Ukraine?
What I don't support about Joe Biden's policy is
she thought it was over. She was like, okay, I mumbled and said this word salad so much. There's no way anybody even knows what the question is anymore. So my job is done.
And you know how she did answer the question? She talked about the situation. She brought up an Eisenhower quote, and then she brought up the fact that people are talking about peace. But Jimmy asked you, what is your position on Ukraine? Do you support the Chinese peace proposal? Will you end Ukraine aid? At no point did she mention any of this. That's a rehearsed answer. 100% rehearsed in order to fool people into thinking that she answered the question on Ukraine. I'm gonna bring up Eisenhower quote. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the situation as we know it. That's not your opinion. That's not what you would do as commander in chief. But anyway, let's continue. Because Jimmy continue to nail it down. Go ahead, CJ.
Is when he says for as long as it takes. He and Lloyd Austin just talk about how we're just giving money for as long as it takes. We need to be in support of a negotiated settlement.
So there already was a.
So let's understand, if this is our answer to the question, do you support, what's your difference between Joe Biden and war stance and yours? Hers, understand, all she said is this is unlimited. That's the difference. That's the difference she's trying to make. So all the money that's already been spent, that's fine. Yeah. Trying to get tanks to them, that's fine. Cluster munitions, that's fine. She's saying she just would not make this be an unlimited check. But
how does that make sense? That's the Kyle Kulinski position. And I want to ask you guys, how does that make sense? So you guys are like, we're gonna fund this war a little bit, allow massive amount of Ukrainians to die, and then we're gonna cut the checks out completely and leave Ukrainians on their own. Wouldn't it be better off to skip the middleman and skip the part where tens of thousands of Ukrainians die? If you're gonna have a plan where they're not gonna defeat Russia anyway, why not skip the part where you wage war? You know what I mean? But anyway, let's continue.
Talk about how we're just giving money for as long as it takes. We need to be in support of a negotiated settlement.
So there already was a.
Of course, theoretically, you would say. I mean, Jake Sherman was there, so to some extent, of course, you're aware that in 2014 that the CIA could.
Now, if you begin this part right here, she would have called you mansplaining, Nick, because look what he does here. So let's listen.
The Ukrainian government, with the help of the right-wing Nazis, and then the people in the eastern part of Ukraine, in the Donbass, didn't want to go along with that coup government. And so Ukraine started shelling them. The government of Ukraine, the coup government started shelling them. And so
now I forgot, this is something else. To your point, Nick, when you say she is going to be kicked out of I can't remember if you said the NATO left because you're not supposed to discuss this. This is the reason. Because now you can never say, because you look what he's doing. He's reading the evidence, Nick. He's reading it in front of her, not allowing you to say, I know it. No. I'm going to finish everything. So you can't say you never heard what I'm about to tell you.
That's a great point.
NATO left. You see what I'm saying? So
that's a great
this
point.
Is the reason why they don't want her. This is so to your point, because I didn't understand what you were saying. And I'm like, you know what? They might kick her out for this. Because they don't want this moment. This moment is what they don't want. Go ahead.
So if she does an interview later and she pretends she doesn't know this after Jimmy schools her, she's playing a role.
Right.
If Marianne Williamson fans are watching this and they still trying to defend her position, they're playing a role. That's a fantastic point, CJ. But look,
right. And I don't know if he did it intentionally, but this is genius to me.
But Marianne Williamson was already on their she was already in bad standing because she ran against Biden, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's why there were a lot of progressives that wasn't already fucking with her. Okay, come on, man. What the fuck? We're supposed to be on the Biden train. You taking the extra step. fuck that step. We're not doing that step no more. So when she does this, she's definitely out of the club. I think after this, it's over for her. Like it's literally shocking to me that the Vanguard is not embarrassed, and other channels are still not embarrassed to say they support Marianne Williamson to this day. But I think this interview is going to be the end. Like the clips was everywhere on Twitter. God knows what other social media look like. This is the end. Like anyone who support her after this, you exposed yourself. So anyway, let's continue. I want to hear more.
Aware that in 2014 that the CIA couped the Ukrainian government with the help of the right-wing Nazis. And then the people in the eastern part of Ukraine, in the Donbass, didn't want to go along with that coup government. And so Ukraine started shelling them. The government of Ukraine, the coup government started shelling them. And so they had the peace agreement called the Minsk Accords, which we now know that which was going to give the people in the Donbass, they would stop shelling them, and that they would give them some kind of independence because they were the Russian speakers in that country, in the east part. And so Ukraine never followed that peace agreement. And now we know, because Angela Merkel and others have revealed it, that they never intended on following that peace agreement, and they didn't, and they kept shelling those people in the Donbass. And when Putin invaded, it was to stop that shelling. So were you aware of that history?
I am aware of what you are saying. I am not enrolled in your interpretation of exactly what you are saying.
I'm not enrolled.
There's no fucking way. There's no way she fucking said that again. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
She said it like 4 times during the whole interview.
This is some generational shit we watching, fam. This is some all-time legendary shit we are watching. She literally pulled the alternative facts again. When Jimmy said something that is, you can easily Google this shit. You can easily see Western Report on this. Marianne Williamson is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and she lives in an alternative reality than we do. Like, this is why she's writing these crazy-ass culty books. What's the title of her book?
The Mystic Jesus. The Mystic Jesus.
Yeah, she really believes the Mystic Jesus shit. Like, she's crazy. She don't believe shit is real, fam. Nigga, does she believe the sky blue? Nigga, does she believe the civil rights movement happened? Like, what else do you deny? Like, this is
clown
shit. Like, Marianne Williamson supporters, you guys are not embarrassed. CJ, I actually want to hear that again. CJ, do you not go back? Go back 15 seconds. Oh, I want to hear that. Marianne Williamson supporters, the Vanguard, please sit down, listen to this. This is mental illness. Jimmy Dore brought up a historical event to her, and she said, I don't believe that historical event happened. That's some Holocaust denial shit. Imagine if someone like, man, you talking about some slavery and shit, like, man, see, I don't enroll into those events. What she's saying is crazy, fam. Like, I am flabbergasted, because I told you I didn't watch this. Like, I wanted to go into this blind. I am flabbergasted, fam. Like, for real, let's continue. And then I'll try to find something smart to say afterwards. Because I don't have a smart analysis. I'm dumbfounded right now. Let's continue, and let me catch my breath.
So to some extent, of course,
you're aware that in 2014 that the CIA couped the Ukrainian government with the help of the right-wing Nazis, and then the people in the eastern part of Ukraine, in the Donbass, didn't want to go along with that coup government. And so Ukraine started shelling them. The government of Ukraine, the coup government started shelling them. And so they had the peace agreement called the Minsk Accords.
She's trying to compose her mouth and not let it come out. You can tell she's trying to compose herself. So at least she's been rehearsing to temper, because considering the news and all the news articles coming out about her temper, she's trying to, at least on camera in interviews, not have that spill out. And I think that's what we're seeing here when you're saying, look, she's seething and she's trying to contain it.
Nick, she's seething right now. She's in shambles. Like, imagine someone was telling you your religion is fake. That's what happened to Marianne right now. Jimmy is telling her religion is fake.
And so Ukraine started shelling them. The government of Ukraine, the coup government started shelling them. And so they had the peace agreement called the Minsk Accords, which we now know that which was going to give the people in the Donbass, they would stop shelling them, and that they would give them some kind of independence because they were the Russian speakers in that country, in the east part. And so Ukraine never followed that peace agreement. And now we know, because Angela Merkel and others have revealed it, that they never intended on following that peace agreement, and they didn't, and they kept shelling those people in the Donbass. And when Putin invaded, it was to stop that shelling. So were you aware of that history?
I am aware of what you are saying. I am not enrolled in your interpretation of exactly what you are saying. I am not. I do.
So what do you disagree with?
I'll tell you the problem I have with it. I do not believe.
Here. He's like, what are you talking? What? What do you mean? Did I misspeak or something?
That Ukraine is nothing but a puppet of the United States.
So you notice here, she says, I disagree. I don't enroll with what you said, with the facts you said. And then he says, what do you disagree? She names something he doesn't even say, Nick. Yeah. That's so telling, because she knows it's nothing what he said. She disagrees. That's factually incorrect. So listen to that.
What do you disagree with?
I'll tell you the problem I have with it. I do not believe that Ukraine is nothing but a puppet of the United States.
When did he say that? When did he say that? When did he say that, Nick? Nowhere did he say anything about them being a puppet in this last question. I mean, because it wasn't even a question. He listed chronologically the things that happened in 2014 to 2015 in Ukraine with the coup and everything, U.S. backed, and listed all this stuff and listed the Minsk Accord. Didn't mention anything about Ukraine being a puppet, Nick. And then he says, what do you disagree with what I just said? I disagree that they're a puppet. What? That's telling, because she is basically, you're not going, Jimmy, with the essence of what we want to go with the Ukraine war, and that is to forget about what happened in 2015, and that is not a reason to why we're here. So she just disagrees, like, with the vibe, not with the facts. That's why she has to say something else. But go ahead, Nick. You were going to chime in.
Anyway, play a part again. Let's continue, because this part I haven't seen this, so I want to make sure I get this in full.
I am aware of what you are saying. I am not enrolled in your interpretation of exactly what you are saying. I am not. I do.
So what do you disagree with?
I'll tell you the problem.
What do you disagree with the stuff he just said about what happened in Ukraine in the coup? That's the question. Now listen to her answer.
Problem I have with it. I do not believe that Ukraine is nothing but a puppet of the United States. So we're not going to agree on that one.
So if we
I think that's him saying, yeah, you're not, that's not even an answer to my question. Oh. That's why he says you're adorable.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
That's like saying, bless your heart.
Play that part again, dude. I didn't see this yet. So play that part. That's hilarious.
I'll tell you the problem I have with it. I do not believe that Ukraine is nothing but a puppet of the United States. So we're not going to agree on that one.
So if we stop funding the Ukraine government, the Ukraine government shuts down. Do you know that? Do you know if we stop funding the Ukraine government shuts down, right? We're paying every person in the Ukraine government salary. We're paying their Social Security. You know that, right? Or maybe you don't.
Let me ask you if you know, because I don't like big talk. Do you know? So
I'm asking, do you know that?
Do you know? What I know, listen, I'm not saying that everything is clean between the United States.
No, she's Terrence Crawford right now, fam. Bro, she is Terrence Crawford. Bro, the way she is dodging all these motherfuckers, man. I haven't seen shit like this since Anderson Silva in his prime. Like, she's dodging all these questions like she's in the fucking Matrix. Let's continue. This is way more glorious than I thought it was going to be.
Did you know that?
I know that there are all kinds of business dealings.
So you don't know that? You didn't know that?
That there is money being paid to Ukraine.
That we are paying their entire government salary. You didn't know that? And that's how we could force a peace agreement tomorrow, is because we would just take back that money and their government collapse.
You're right.
This is why she wasn't supposed to talk about Ukraine. Because what she has to do now, Nick, she has to critically think to answer questions. She has to go, what do I know about the Ukraine war? And I just have to give answers, even though she's not studied on this. So he's forcing her to give an answer. No. We're not moving on until you give me an answer on this question, and that's she's being reluctantly dragged. That's what we're hearing, how she's saying this answer. Because listen how she pauses and like takes a deep breath or something, because she says, damn, I'm about to go into the deep end right now and try to put together an answer with the limited information I know about this topic. I'm going to try to put together an answer.
You didn't know that? And that's how we could force a peace agreement tomorrow, is because we would just take back that money and their government collapse.
You're right.
Okay.
That if we completely withdrew support from Ukraine, the government of Ukraine would collapse. I certainly understand that. The difference you and I have is that you seem to think that would be a great thing. I don't. I don't think the Russians having complete control of Ukraine and getting their way in this situation is good for Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland.
She says she do not think that would be a good thing for the corrupt Kyiv regime to ban socialists and other alternative political parties and ban opposition media from collapsing. Yes, Marianne Williamson, that would be a fantastic thing. You want to know what the alternative to that is? The alternative to that is literally 40,000 more Ukrainians dying in the next few weeks. What's worse, 10,000, hundreds of thousands Ukrainians dying, or a corrupt government being dissolved? To me, that answer is obvious. Marianne Williamson is like, I'd rather have more Ukrainians die than have Zelensky government lose power. And Marianne, by the way, you know the Ukrainian government is fucked, right? You know who owns the Ukrainian government now? BlackRock. But she don't know that. Mean things she don't know about this, apparently. Ukraine is owned by BlackRock after this war. This is not aid, these are loans. So the Ukrainian government, as you know, it will not exist. So what are you preserving at the cost of tens of thousands of Ukrainian lives? Like, absolutely unhinged performance. I'm glad she agreed to do this. And this is why she about to get kicked from the club, CJ. Yeah, like this is some generational shit we're watching right now. This is way more glorious than I thought it was gonna be. But go back like 5 seconds and let it play.
Russians having complete control of Ukraine and getting their way in this situation is good for Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, Sweden, and I do not believe that that means there would be peace in Europe. There would be anything but peace in Europe.
So you're just another pro-war Democrat. You really don't have anything.
It's over now.
Damn, Jimmy. Damn. He didn't lie, though.
You're not really against war. You're for this war and all the propaganda that goes along with it, because this was provoked by NATO. There's no point to even have NATO. I mean, this is really disappointing.
Well,
this is just like your Julian Assange before. You're just as bad on this as you were on.
Yeah, like the last time he had her on, she was bad on Julian Assange and Medicare for All, and now she's back here and she's bad on this. This is because the professional managerial left, the NATO left, they aren't the leaders of the left. They aren't leading what it means to be left. They just kind of smell the air, say, this is where the wind blowing, and I kind of take little parts of it. It's never enough. And that's what she is always behind, Nick. Every year. What is she going to be behind in 2024? I mean, 2028. What are you going to be behind? What issue are you going to be behind that everybody's already on that you're going to be behind on? Because she's not a leftist. Go ahead.
She's going to be telling us that Mike Pompeo is right about Taiwan and China. when the war breaks out, when Japan is mobilized, when NATO's ready to go to war with China, she's like, trust me, guys, we got to stop the Chinese Communist Party. I know what was wrong on Ukraine before. Don't trust me. I got it now. I understand Ukraine now. But trust me, you guys are wrong on Taiwan. That's going to be her in like 2 or 3 years.
All right. So I'll rewind it about 10 seconds and then continue to play.
And all the propaganda that goes along with it, because this was provoked by NATO. There's no point to even have NATO. I mean, this is really disappointing.
Well,
this is just like your Julian Assange before. You're just as bad on this as you were on Julian Assange before. This is bad.
On Julian Assange before, I said I didn't know. I said I didn't know. And for years, I've been supporting Julian Assange. Okay. For years, I have been saying that I have gone to marches and I've visited with this Stella and I've walked around the Parliament building in London.
What do you think?
Ask Misty Winston about that, who organized Julian Assange.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave it there. I had a show. I may post it just so Misty can get some more. We can bring some people to Misty's show, but Misty has a story about Marianne Williamson and Julian Assange events. How she showed up for the cameras, and then they had a direct action afterwards that she didn't show up for.
Oh yeah, and she didn't show up for. And Katie, I was on that stream, and Katie Halper showed up to the second one too. So she gave kudos to Katie. But as for me, this is why I stopped it. We stopped it in the same place for two different reasons. Mine is, so Nick, what do you think the reason is when you have a NATO left person like this who goes and has this exchange? Why would she not come back today, tomorrow, and go, you know what? You guys have woken me up. Now I understand that this is some bullshit. Like learning, basically. How can a NATO left go through this and see this and then come back and still
that's why
I don't understand that. Go ahead.
That's why I don't believe they're good faith, and that's why I view them as oppositional now. Because they know this stuff. Like Ro Khanna tweeted in opposition to Congress funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine in 2018, and now he's trying to pretend he doesn't know this. Are we going to continue to play dumb with them? Are we going to play with their game where we're going to pretend that Marianne Williamson and every single person who support the Biden regime, NATO agenda don't know these facts that Jimmy is talking about? They know. I had maybe a few weeks grace period when Ukraine started. We got that shit right immediately. But I'm like, okay, I get it, you guys. I get the inherent need to want to defend someone else, right?
Yeah.
But you motherfuckers got access to the internet. At this point, a year and a half after the Russian-Ukraine war, hundreds of thousands dead soldiers on both sides, I don't believe that you guys are misinformed on this. I think you guys are literally Nazi collaborators. I believe you guys are active agents of NATO. You guys understand what the agenda and the assignment? You guys understand the assignment? You guys are operating it. I am beyond the point of giving the Bernie Sanders, Marianne Williamson left benefit of doubt on this. Remember Nina Turner's show? When Nina Turner and other black staff member that I'm sure she found that in the needle in the haystack. She found one of the few other sisters that agreed with her that Ukraine deserved funding.
Like 75.
And people wonder why we are oppositional towards Nina Turner. When me and Nina Turner, we used to follow each other, we used to be friendly. But you are actively being a Nazi collaborator, and I know Nina Turner is smarter than me. I know AOC is smarter than me. You guys got the degrees, fam. I'm a college dropout. I'm a dum-dum, right? But this college dropout knows more than you, right? This college dropout.
You're not buying it.
I'm not buying it. You guys signed up, took the assignment to be pro-imperialist agents of the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, let's continue.
Yes. This video is almost done. We got 2 minutes left, and then any clips. There is a couple of clips because this video does not cover some of the viral clips that we've seen on Twitter. So let's listen.
I've definitely been in support of Julian Assange and for years.
Okay, well, good. Well, good. People know that. So now people know you're a staunch supporter of the Ukraine war effort. So,
you know, it's funny when you say, well, you would say it's strong supporter of Ukraine war. That's your language. It is not mine. I am strong.
You a weak supporter?
Will you let me finish my sentence?
Sure.
I'm a strong supporter in the path to a negotiated settlement in which there is a Ukraine to negotiate. And what is happening right now to
the NATO left, the professional managerial class, they think these hairline differences, if you ever seen a hairline fracture on something, it's like very, very, they think these are huge chasms of differences, these huge differences. This is nothing, which she points out as some sort of difference of saying I wouldn't. So I'm basically saying it's a lot of they use a lot of language that is underwhelming for what it should be, or over depicts what it should be. So when they're talking about the fight that they're doing, it's revolutionary. Our movement is like, what movement? And how is it revolutionary voting for a Democrat? But then when it's talking about something that's bad, then they want to underplay it. And that's what she's doing, the language of the professional managerial class.
me is in a way a vindication of that view, because now real negotiations are beginning. And real negotiations are beginning because both Russia as well as Ukraine know it's not going to be so easy to get everything you want here. And I'm glad that Vladimir Putin is beginning to have countries like China now for the first time willing to attend a meeting like that, because he will be getting China, India, Brazil, and other countries,
now,
not just the United States, who is.
This is someone who has no idea what she's talking about. So, do you guys know that China proposed the Chinese peace proposal on Ukraine that was uniformly accepted by the global South and most of the world population? India signed to it. Russia signed to it. Lula was a strong advocate of the Chinese peace proposal that called for people to support and respect ballot referendums and support territorial sovereignty of nations. Putin supported China. You want to know who did not support the Chinese peace proposal? Zelensky. Zelensky in the United States did not, because Zelensky's ask for ending the war is taking Crimea back in offensive action. So the Chinese peace proposal says Crimea must stay Russia because we got to respect the sovereignty and the will of the people, because they had a referendum a long time ago to be part of Russia. You had Odessa, you had the Donbass in eastern Ukraine that had referendums to be independent states, not part of Russia, but outside of Ukrainian influence, which Russia support and China support. The majority of the global population support the Chinese peace proposal, except the United States, the UK, France, the global NATO Western powers, and Zelensky. But in this fairy tale, political fan fiction that she's making up right now, she's pretending that China is dragging Russia, that Zelensky and China has a good peace-wanting relationship. Zelensky keeps attacking Xi Jinping and keeps saying that Xi Jinping essentially calling for a Ukrainian surrender, for asking for a peace proposal that most of the world wants. So just go back 5 seconds. I want to explain that, and then I want you guys to hear what she says. Because what she says, I spot this immediately. This is a massive, like open fan fiction here, like completely made up nonsense here. Listen to this.
Willing to attend a meeting like that because he will be getting China, India, Brazil, and other countries, not just the United States, who are saying this thing has got to stop and you're not going to get everything you want.
So it's that kind of attitude that is getting people slaughtered in Ukraine. And it's that kind of naive, that's that kind of attitude, that kind of view of the Ukraine, the NATO and the United States are using the people of Ukraine as cannon fodder to try to inflict economic damage on Russia. And so this isn't about liberating from Russia. This is about us provoking.
They were already a country. There was nothing. We're not talking about the Donbass and Crimea.
So you can have this view if you want. It's odious.
You see how
it's
she's
interesting.
The one
so you think that the people.
You notice how she's the one interrupting, but she's the one who's played the victim. She did the same thing to us. She did the same thing to us. She quickly interrupt you, but you say something. She says, "How dare you?" Jimmy Dore is making a point here. Doesn't get one sentence in, and Marianne Williamson, in desperate fashion, does her best to cut her off, cut Jimmy off. Let's watch it.
Because the points that he's making makes her look worse if she continues to have the stance she has.
About us provoking.
They were already a country. There was nothing. We're not talking about the Donbass and Crimea.
So you can have this view if you want. It's odious.
It's interesting. So you think that the people of Ukraine and the way they've been fighting in this war are just doing that, just as puppets of the U.S. government? That kind of fighting, that kind of spirit, that kind of...
What kind of spirit are you talking? The only people who are saying these people have some sort of fighting, like never give up spirit, are people who are crafting propaganda narratives. Yes. You haven't seen people being snatched and kidnapped to be put to go fight, unemployed people to go fight. What is she talking about? That's what I'm saying. The only way to have this view, Nick, is that you have to be believing literally State Department like
she watching Morning Joe. Well, she sounds just like Morning Joe. CJ, remember, this is why we do propaganda report, because I told you, we catch these motherfuckers in 4K repeating the same shit that we see on Morning Joe during propaganda report. During propaganda report, they be like, oh my God, the brave Ukrainians are fighting. Watch Marianne Williamson repeat that same fucking line. And what she says, do you think the Ukrainian people are puppets for wanting to fight this war? They did not want to fight this war.
Right.
Zelensky ran on a peace platform. Something else you didn't know about. The people who provoked this war was the Azov Battalion and far-right fascists who wanted to purge their countries of the Romani population, of Black Muslims and Russians in Ukraine. And anyone who advocated for peace, they threatened to kill. Any peace activist was attacked by the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. Another fact she didn't know. So there's one faction that is bragging about the fact that the West is helping them on their crusade, helping them in their fight. That is the far-right fascist side of Ukraine. Everyone else wants peace. They even threatened to kill Zelensky if he proposed peace, if he called for peace. They threatened to kill him over that. And this is the pattern that the West does all the time. So why does the United States arm terrorists all around the world? Why did the United States arm fascists in Nicaragua? Why did they arm far-right militants in South America under the Reagan years? Because only the most extreme elements of your society is willing to sell out their population in order to accomplish their political agenda. So the same thing that happened in the global South in many coups in many Western-backed countries that the Reagan era and the Cold War supported, these coups. They will back otherwise unpopular political faction, boost them up because they get massive propaganda, massive weapons, and it will help them carry out their violent offensive regimes. And that's what they did in Ukraine. Marianne Williamson has no idea about this. And she thinks that Ukraine is fighting this war because they all just hate Russia, even though 50% of Ukrainians speak Russian. And they have familial ties.
She doesn't know anything about that.
She don't know anything. But anyway, it's almost done, so I left.
Yeah, she doesn't know anything about that. And I'm going to quickly shout out our Substack. We're about to hit 1,100 people, so make sure you're on our Substack for when we go live and drop clips. We drop 3 to 4 clips every single day. So if you're on our Substack, you get that sent to your email. You can watch it directly in your email, all 4 clips. You also get notifications when we go live. Join our Substack if you would like to get all those notifications. All right, so here we go back to the stream. There's a few seconds left. I'm going to back it up about 10 seconds and let it finish out here.
Yeah,
it's odious.
It's interesting. So you think that the people of Ukraine and the way they've been fighting in this war are just doing that, just as puppets of the U.S. government? That kind of fighting, that kind of spirit, that kind of unbelievable fighting is only because of puppets of the U.S. government?
Yes, we are. So if you don't know what's happening there, that's fine. But to say that we're not slaughtering those people for an economic war by the West on Russia just shows a naivete about the situation. And it's too bad. It's too bad. So you sound just like, you sound like MSNBC and CNN on this. And it's too bad because that's garbage.
Yeah, that you talk to someone who doesn't agree with you, like by definition, and we're stupid. But that's okay.
By definition, you see how she tries to play this? She tries to play that her bad takes on shit is just the difference of opinion.
Yes.
And she should not be criticized for having an opinion that literally means the deaths of tens of thousands of people. This is what the professional managerial class, Palestinians, they're dying, kids dying, getting maimed, whatever. Like, we're just supposed to be like, okay with that? No, you're going to be critiqued harshly on these things, especially these things that involve people dying and being murdered by the military-industrial complex. I just don't get her response of being like offended by somebody describing what you're doing as terrible. Go ahead, Nick.
It's the weaponization of civility politics. And you guys see how she's praising the Ukrainian fighting. What? That is so disgusting, guys. How many times have we seen MSNBC? That's why seeing it, Jimmy said you sound just like MSNBC. Whether Marianne Williamson knows it or not, he is literally nailing it. Because that is what they're saying. So when she's praising the Ukrainian fighting, that is pro-war rhetoric. So when we say you're pro-war, Marianne Williamson, we are not exaggerating. She is praising how hard that Ukrainians are dying against the Russian Empire. You guys know how fucking crazy that is? And she think that's
she's trying to describe. She's describing it as their willingness to die in this war is some sort of honorable thing, when that is not really an accurate description of what's happening. Them being duped into fighting, kidnapped into fighting in order just to weaken Russia for this proxy war of the United States. That's the description that the NATO left doesn't want to have to answer yes or no to. They like to describe it in this way that gives them an out, a moral out, to be able to not say that they're scum for supporting something like this. Truly terrible.
John Carter said, this is a good comment, so I'll read it. Sorry, CJ.
Okay.
She romanticized the death of a nation. Gross. You guys know that Ukraine is never going to be the same again. Ukraine as a country is forever gone. She's romanticizing it. I want to show the comment. That's a great comment, John. Great comment, because that's like, I'm literally like, it's disgusting what she's doing here.
Yeah.
It's grossly offensive. But she's like, oh man, it's a small disagreement. Nah, fam. Not at all. Let's continue.
So let me let it play out, and she says the same thing. I just got to hear it again, and then we'll get to the clip. So now we'll go to the clip. So if you have clips, Nick, that you want to play, we can get to these clips now.
I'll let you play it, because I think you got everything I've seen. I didn't see a lot of it, so I think we covered a good bit of it, but I'll pass it. Okay. I'll let you finish all your clips out.
All right. So here goes this last few seconds of her saying this.
You don't know what's happening there. That's fine. But to say that we're not slaughtering those people for an economic war by the West on Russia just shows a naivete about the situation. And it's too bad. It's too bad. So you sound just like, you sound like MSNBC and CNN on this. And it's too bad, because that's garbage.
Yeah, that you talk to someone who doesn't agree with you, like by definition, and we're stupid. But that's okay. Is there another subject?
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fantastic. Come see our live shows. We're going to be in.
He got the talking points that he needed to hear. Exactly the same way with me. I was like, all right, we got that. When she told you guys not to vote for her, when she told me that if you have the opinion that you have, don't vote for me, I was like, oh, okay. I got exactly the talking points I wanted out of this, because we got a general. We got the soundbite. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. People got upset at me saying that, but people don't realize that I am quite literally an extremely biased journalist, and the reason why I do this is to advocate for people to leave the Democratic Party. So when Marianne Williamson tells people not to vote for her, a Democrat, I'm like, thank God, thank you for giving me that soundbite. And Jimmy Dore got that soundbite that he wanted based on his questioning, exposing the fact that she's a pro-war supporter of the Ukrainian war. That Jimmy didn't force her to say. She just kind of confirmed it, because he gave her an open-ended question saying, "What's your position on Ukraine?" And it had her end up romanticizing the death of a nation. That's how it ended. Like, that's her fault, 100%. Anyway, let's
so I believe that we didn't hear this part. So I'll play this section.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. I've seen this clip.
Yeah, she talks about, now it might be a little bit overlap that we've seen in the initial video, but there's parts, maybe half of this video, that was not in that clip that we just saw on Jimmy Dore. So again, the sound, you can hear it, but the sound isn't as clear as the other one. So just let's listen.
They're also out there being pro-war. So that's the biggest issue right now. As we said, how much money do you think we should send to Ukraine? We sent over $100 billion, while there are people living under every bridge in America, and 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. How much money do you think we should have sent to Ukraine?
858. We have 858 billion that goes into our yearly defense budget. So the overspending by the military is a huge issue.
This is the same tactic. This is, now I'm pointing it out here so that we can see how the previous one wasn't a happenstance, where you ask her a question and all she does is just kind of retell what the events are instead of asking the question. She does it right here too. This is how you know this is a tactic, not happenstance. She's doing it right here again, not answering the question. I'll rewind it just slightly so we can get the beginning of it. Let's listen.
There are people living under every bridge in America and 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. How much money do you think we should have sent to Ukraine?
858. We have 858 billion that goes into our yearly defense budget. So the overspending by the military is a huge issue, of which Ukraine is a small part. And the fact that we are not funding the people of the United States and the actualization of their dreams is, to me, basically the reason I'm running. But I don't see that as dependent on whether or not we're spending money on Ukraine.
So $100 billion, which they say could end homelessness 4 times over in the United States. That's not a lot of money.
That's not the issue. The issue is that you could say that about any of the money that we spend on the $2 trillion tax cut that should be repealed, where 83 cents of every dollar went to the highest earners and the richest corporations. The billions of dollars we give in subsidies to corporations that are already making billions of dollars. Plus the fact.
So why do you think it is that we can, at the drop of a hat, send $100 billion to Ukraine, the most corrupt country in Europe, but we can't fund our own homelessness in America? Why do you think that is?
Because funding homelessness in America does not serve anybody's corporate bottom line.
Here's the trap, by the way.
She messed up.
I want you guys to see the trap. There's a trap.
So we were both going to comment at the same place. I was going to stop it, and you commented right at that place. You didn't know I was going to stop it, though. She messed up right here because she just going on corporate, because that's what professional managerial class like to talk about. This is all corporate. This is just corporate bad. Nothing to do with capitalism, just corporate. That's all. So she's, there's no corporate bottom line. Wait. So you're saying there's a corporate bottom line in Ukraine? You just said that the Ukrainians are dying or, are fighting for this great reason, and they're great, all this great fighting, this heroic fighting, I should say. And this is a trap, like you said. Let's rewind it 2 seconds and play it and hear her answer and hear her try to clean it up very quickly after she realizes, wow, I shouldn't have said it that way.
It does not serve anybody's corporate bottom line.
And so this war is for corporate bottom line.
Definitely on this one, it is true that this happens to be making money for Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and
so it's not really about helping the people, because if it was about helping the people, we'd start here first, right?
No, actually, listen.
No,
Jimmy,
we start over in Ukraine.
We just sit here and you're gonna.
I'm sorry, I gave you a tough question. Now try to answer it.
Not about that. I do not believe that if only we were not supporting Ukraine, all that money would then go to help the homeless in America.
Where would the money go?
She just got absolutely dismantled, absolutely folded, fam, with just simple questions.
That was
absolutely crumbled.
Oh, here's your. This is what I was looking for earlier. Just your tweet. Why did Marianne Williamson think agreeing to this interview was a good idea? She better run back to her pro-war social democrat echo chamber. Yep. What do you think is happening, Nick, in that echo chamber? What do you think the Sam Cedars? What do you think the Kyle Kalinski's crystal balls? How can they respond to this besides ignoring this? There is no way, because if they cover this, they also have to cover their terrible stance on Ukraine. Go ahead.
As you seen with this clip, with Jimmy interview, we see our interview with Marianne. When you see Marianne Williamson crumble to the very few horror interviews she got, you see how that pro-war social democrat echo chamber, I'm talking about Kyle and Crystal and friends, breaking points. You guys saw she was palling around with Hassan Piker as well. They didn't grill her on Ukraine like this. They don't view Ukraine as an important issue. They don't view empire as an important issue to race to someone running to be commander-in-chief for some reason. They don't view that as important. So when she's asked about Israel and Palestine by me, when she's grilled on Ukraine by Jimmy Dore, she is woefully unprepared, because she used to having people that are in her cult and her staff, that people will worship her because they read her books, don't ever question or challenge her. And she also used to be around this culture of civility, where people will allow you to just bullshit, because calling that bullshit out is rude, correct? So when she see Jimmy dismantling her, you see she's had almost another meltdown at the end. Well, why won't you allow me to spill bullshit on your show? And Jimmy destroyed him. He's like, well, I'm sorry, I'm asking you a tough question. Now, can you answer it? And she was exposed as a complete moron once again. But CJ, any other clips? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, there is another one. I believe it's this one right here. 20 situation and choice. Yeah, I believe it's this one right here. This is the last one, by the way. Less than a minute. Let's listen. This one is by Post-Duopolist or Dirtbag Left on Twitter.
Thing to RFK Jr. when he came on the show, because here they're not going to give you a debate, right? So they're not going to let you debate him, and then his allies brush off the call for a debate. And so what I told RFK Jr. was, you'd be better off running as a Republican, because Republicans don't have super delegates. And the reason why the Democrats have the super delegates is so someone like you can't win. And so you'll never win. And so why run inside the Democratic Party? Why not run outside the Democratic Party?
Well, the question, everything that you're saying is true. I mean, I don't know that last sentence, they'll never let. The issue is whether or not you could ever create a situation where they didn't have the choice.
So tell me.
What does that mean?
So
what
I
does that mean?
let
me find the trigger. Hold on.
They're not going to.
There we go.
I think because that was the end of that. So Jimmy asked her, why run as a Democrat when you know that the system is rigged? They won't let you debate. And Marianne Williamson says, well, how do you know we can't magically create a situation where we allow the corrupt party to allow me to win, even though they just said we won't have debates? You guys see how Marianne Williamson and her supporters are cultivating a dumb left? Her answer to that question is essentially vibes, bro. Come on, don't ruin my vibes. We will gather together. If you believe in the power of friendship and we lock arms together, we believe in the power, the heart of the cards, and we believe in ourselves. We can truly believe it. We got the vibes. And then when it doesn't happen, they're going to be like, oh, damn, what happened here? I don't know, man. We just made a mistake. You guys see how they're cultivating dumb leftists? This is the dumb left. No plan, no intelligence, no strategic planning on how to get to point A to point B. How are you going to get there, Marianne? I don't know, vibes and the power of friendship. We're going to get the Dragon Balls together. Maybe we get the Dragon Balls and we can ask for it. We get a wish together. Maybe a genie and a lamp will come down the river and I can ask for the presidential. Maybe they'll give me a debate. Maybe Nancy Pelosi will wake up and realize that her heart will grow 3 times like the Grinch.
How is it, Nick, though?
What is your logic? But go ahead, CJ. You guys see what I'm saying?
No,
right?
I'm going down the same question.
Go ahead, CJ. Go ahead, CJ. I'll pass to you.
No, I don't get the same. I mean, I was going to say the same thing. I forgot what I was going to say. What is their logic? I don't get. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Professional managerial class has degrees, Nick. Degrees. How is it that people that got college degrees, all these special names for their titles, but when you ask them questions about this strategy, about running within the Democratic Party and supporting some of the things the Democratic Party is doing, they start stumbling over words. They got logic that doesn't that don't add up. Like, how is it that you don't have this with all your degrees? How is that? Because you're trying to sell shit that you know is not a good thing. You're trying to sell a lemon is what you're trying to do. And the fact that you know it's a lemon and you're trying to sell it to working class people, that's what makes you worse than some of the people you call out on the conservative side. That's what makes you worse. Go ahead.
So we know that Marianne Williamson's staff hates her guts. The same way that Kamala Harris staff hates her guts, right? So people wonder why Kamala Harris go out there and she do these speeches that sound completely incoherent, because they've been reporting that Kamala Harris is a horrible boss. She demeans people. She yells at them. So they're like, nigga, we're going to write some bullshit and we're going to watch her fail. No one can convince me that is not true. Now, Marianne Williamson, based on very credible reporting, is a horrible boss herself. She got people locked up in NDAs as we speak. Yeah. And the people right now who staying on her campaign like, no, I can't lose this job. Nigga, I can't lose this opportunity. These motherfuckers hate her ass every damn day. Every damn day she's throwing a stapler at them. Every day she fucking with him. So one day, one of her staff members went to CJ and like, hey, Marianne, I have an idea. Let's go on the Jimmy Dore show. I'm sure you're going to do just great, Marianne. Like, Jimmy Dore, I don't know about that. No, trust me, Marianne. You're going to slay. The staff member that booked her to go on Jimmy Dore is fired, getting chewed out. God knows what's going on with her. Because that was an amazing prank to end your run with Marianne Williamson's campaign. The staff member that agreed to do this hates Marianne Williamson's guts. And no one can convince me otherwise.
Nick, that's actually one of the questions I put in the description box. I put where is that question at? Or I put damn, I thought I wrote it on here. I think I must have put it in the Rumble. It's not in the Twitter one. Hang on a second here. Nah, it's not there. Anyway, it's not there, so I can't tell people to go see it. But anyway, what this interview also did, because there's actually a lot, Nick, I haven't even uploaded all the clips that I got. I just uploaded what I thought were the ones that had the most substance in it. If I find another one, I'm going to scour through them and see if I can find another clip. But there's another, like Jimmy Dore has enough footage from this segment for him to put out another video with more content, because this doesn't cover everything. They kind of talk about the Democratic Party and AOC and them. That's not in any of these interviews. So there's still a little more to cover. But yeah, I
have another like 10 to 15 minutes, but I can read super chats. I can do one more clip. I'm down for one more clip. I can read super chats while you pull the clip if you want me to do that. Does that sound good?
I don't have any new clips we haven't seen. What I was saying, I have them on my phone.
Okay.
Uploaded them. Yeah. I haven't even uploaded them.
Okay, I see.
We can get the super chats and we can get out of here.
Yeah. We upload every single day. We also have the Sabby and JB show. So you guys know Thursday we always gotta bring you a banger, right? And if you guys did not check out the amazing conversation. I greatly enjoyed. I still call it a debate. Like, just because we didn't rip each other's heads off, just because we wasn't trying to ruin each other, we had strong disagreements and we talked it out. And I try to break the echo chamber in RBN whenever I can. I can't get none of these motherfuckers to debate me. So props to Pasta who showed up. So make sure you gotta check out Nick and Night yesterday. That's what we did. And CJ also had a very powerful panel with my friend Misty Winston. I was on the show earlier this week as well. Our friend Anthony Zinkis joined as well. Who else was on the? There was one more. Who else was on?
Kit from Heartlands.
Kit, of course, Kit, our post-duopoly brother. So that was a powerful panel. I watched a few of it. I just blanked on the last person there, but we still got more content for you. So JB and Sabby will be live at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So let me get through the super chats, and we will. You guys get ready for the next RBN programming. Bring on the great Dore Smokeout. Mystical Jesus has nothing on Dore Kush roast. Thank you for the $5 there. We got another one. Marianne Williamson thinks she is a spiritual, cult by how she acts, leader. Mystical Jesus is her Dianetics. None of us are clear after listening to her nonsense. Absolutely. I don't get the appeal. Let's keep it there. Thank you for the solidarity super sticker abiding. Thank you for the $5. Chris O'Sith, dear Marianne Williamson, the United States is not enrolled in the perspective of a multipolar. That's funny. And now this is to my little bit I did to the end there. Thank you for $5, Eric. Can you imagine the Marianne staff meeting after a Jimmy Dore interview? Can you imagine it? Where they just probably sitting there like, yeah, I'm sure that went well, right? Yeah, I'm sure. Marianne, I'm sure you did well. They're not our audience anyways. I seen this skit a long time ago where the car ride home after your homie get their ass beat when they got it. I don't know. There's a skit a long time ago. The homie, like what the car ride is like when a homie get their ass beat. They're sitting there like, shit. That pretty much Marianne Williamson style at that interview. I think it went well. Yeah. Was it a crime scene? Anyway, thank you, Eric, for setting me up for that. That's a funny concept. Was it a crime scene to horror? That's a funny concept. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the $5, Tina. this is Marianne's Mike Pence moment. Yeah, she's done. That's why I think they're gonna ditch her. Like I told you, she already in bad standing. That's why AOC and Bernie and the establishment progressive don't support her. They don't really fuck with her. The desperate people who want to be part of the club, like the Vanguard, the Voshes, the Sampai, all the people who don't have principles, they fuck with her. But the people who already made them, they view her as someone who's unfavorable to be around anyway. And then you had the Jimmy Dore. If you remember, they hate the idea of talking to people. So they already going to be mad at the fact that she even went on the Jimmy Dore show. Yeah. How dare you legitimize Jimmy Dore? And not only do you legitimize Jimmy Dore, he dismantles you and your entire worldview. The entire shared collective worldview of the Marianne Williamson left, NATO left. So I would be shocked. Maybe they will stick low. Because I'm shocked that many of them still support her. So maybe I might be wrong. But I think this is where you see a lot of them pretend that they never support her. Maybe you see some tweets get deleted, some videos go unlisted. Maybe. We have a few more here. Always appreciate the super chats. If you guys want to help us pay our staff, Aaron, who makes great thumbnails as well, make sure you guys check out our GoFundMe, our Patreon, and make sure you guys support the channel if you're enjoying the content. Thank you for the $3, Rick. She is a loyal member of the tribe. Yeah, she was there not to learn. They are never there to learn. Matt Duss is not there to learn. When Matt does go on Democracy Now! And he gets his ass handed to him, he's not here to learn about Vince. He is there to perform for his tribe. Then he's going to repeat the talking points of the tribe and see how well they work. And Marianne Williamson didn't do a good job. And that's another reason why she fucked. Like if you go on there and you do a good NATO left job, at least hold your own in some miracle way, they'll like you. But Marianne completely exposed them. Last super chat, and then we get out of here. I wonder if the interview was set up by one of the people that signed the letter. Yeah, one of the people that signed a letter that's saying that we should never support. We should support Marianne. All these people that want to speak out against Marianne Williamson, but they are stuck under the FDA and being threatened of being sued by this millionaire white woman. So I wish they can tell their story. And I think the question that everyone should ask Marianne Williamson moving forward is you should release their employees off their NDAs because you went through so many campaign managers. We got to see what's going on. That's the transparency that we should expect from the proletariat movement, correct? Anyway, what's popping, JB? What's popping, bro? What's popping, man? I don't know how long you've been watching. We got our man JB in the house. My man JB is too powerful. What's popping, brother?
Yo, just wanted to say that some of the things that were brought out, it really just showed Marianne Williamson for all who she is, and it revealed her true colors. And by the way, you and I and everybody and their mama knows that if the Democratic Party isn't going to allow for any type of debates, if they're not going to allow really for anybody to be someone who goes up against Joe Biden, then there is no real true plan in order to actually take the White House. I honestly do feel that this is just a book tour. And people may disagree with me about this, but I also think it's the same thing with RFK Jr. Because the thing is that there's really no plan to really go up against him. Like if Marianne Williamson said, oh, you know what? I'm going to do a dirty break. If her and RFK said, if you guys do not do this copacetic within the Democratic Party, we're going to run outside as independents and we're going to go up against you. But the thing is that they're not going to do that, because ultimately their loyalty is tied to the Democratic Party and tied to just making money. So therefore, I don't believe them. So that's honestly what I think. And my prediction is Marianne Williamson's not going to make it past Christmas. So I don't think she's going to make it past Christmas. And RFK Jr. is going to make it to the convention, but he's going to concede. Not to make it to convention. He's going to concede by the time we get to past New Hampshire primaries. Once we get into the primaries, probably the couple of the caucuses, then he'll drop out and formally endorse Biden. But Marianne Williamson, I won't see her past Christmas.
Great predictions. We'll see.
I'm glad he came on. I'm glad he came on to.
Yeah. Just wanted to pop in and say what's up, guys, and I gotta get going.
We got JB and Sabby. No, do an ad, do a promo real quick for JB Sabby.
Oh, yeah. So
that's in an hour. That's probably an hour, right?
Yeah. So we're gonna be talking about one of the stories we're gonna talk about is the sentencing of Tory Lanez, the rapper, to 10 years in prison for shooting Meg Thee Stallion. So I'm gonna be talking about that, and we're going to be giving our opinions on that, but also we're going to be talking about the brawl that happened over the weekend. Look, I'm going to bring out my folding chair. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about that too.
Yeah.
I know Nick and CJ got folding chairs in the house.
Yeah, we got
dude, you guys realize that brawl happened. Like, I'm a martial artist trained in the Midwest, and I learned to fight because of the presence and the acknowledgement that shit like that can go down at any time. And when you learn martial arts, whether people who want to admit this or not, we always have this fantasy of shit going down like that. Because we trained for years. Like, I'm like, nigga, I would throw a flying. I watched the film, like, I would throw a knee right there. And I would throw, I want to try my techniques out on these motherfuckers. I see these videos of these white supremacists fuck with black people all the time, and I'm waiting for my turn. I'm like, I'm waiting for my damn moment. So I'm watching that brawl, and that brawl is so cathartic to watch because of that.
Yo, I know you guys were thinking this because I was thinking it. This was the moment where we said in our minds, this was the dream when we said, I wish a motherfucker would.
Yeah.
and the best thing about that brawl, and we talked about it a little bit off screen, the best thing about that brawl, and the reason why Black Twitter universally loved it, like I'm sure Black social media everywhere was booming, because it showed the underlying unity of our community. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. They just seen the nigga get his ass beat by a bunch of unhinged white people. And then we see motherfuckers swimming. Niggas turn to Aquaman to jump in that motherfucker. And I was thinking, imagine if Lee, CJ, and Rome is walking around and shit pops up like that. There's no question. There's no interrogation. What's going on here? You guys fucked up. Y'all better do what y'all motherfuckers did in the 50 and isolate us. Y'all not going to have these motherfuckers got bold recently. Like, they think they're just gonna fucking launch attacks on us. Once again, like, and it's good that it is the way it is, but a lot of people are lucky that we're not looking for revenge. I'll just leave it there, just for sake for our channel don't get pulled. No, we're not looking for revenge. We're just looking for a better living condition and standard justice. That's what we want. But anyway, let's continue, JB. I'll pass it back to you because I'm gonna watch that. It's gonna be a good show. I'll pass you any last thoughts, JB. I'll let you prepare for your show. Thank you.
No, we'll probably be off tomorrow since we came today. I'm probably be off tomorrow.
I'll take a break tomorrow. So,
and then Monday we got the post duopoly show. So the post duopoly show will be back on Monday. So likely this is the last time you'll see Nick and I until Monday. Outside of that, Nick, I don't have anything else. I'll play an outro video.
Yeah, I see you guys.
Anything else from you?
No, I see you guys with some new guest announcements for next week. So I got a lot of good things planned. So I'll announce that here soon on my Twitter. Make sure you guys follow us.
All right, Nick. So see you, everybody. Make sure you check out a couple of things. Our website, I'll throw it up there. Oops. That's our Substack. So I'll do Substack first. That's our Substack. And then our website. If you're in the Boston chapter and you want to submit a mutual aid request, the Boston chapter is taking mutual aid requests where if you need something done mutual aid wise, mutual aid is more than just money. Oh, I need my lawn. You're elderly, you need my lawn, or a handicap, I need my lawn mowed. You submit a mutual aid request, and Sabby gets that and then fulfills the request. So that's one of the many updates to our website. Go and check it out. Here is our email address for contact. If you need to contact us, there's our email address. And then I had throw this up there accidentally. That's our Substack to get notifications when we go live. So unless something pop off, you will see us on Monday for the post duopoly show. We're probably going to talk a little bit about this interview since all of us will be together, Hardlands Media, Due Dissidence, and the Nick and CJ show. So make sure you check that out. We're going to play another video. This is a new video from Kyle Kalinske where he's, Any news about Marianne Williamson, he jumps on, except for stuff like this. Here's something he jumped on right here.
So a few weeks ago, we talked about how there was a high-level official in the Marianne Williamson campaign who confirmed to me that the DNC is officially trying to shut her out of various states. She was supposed to give a speech to young Democrats in a certain state, and they pulled the plug on that. The campaign paid for this voter data, which usually any candidate can get their hands on, and then they ghosted the Marianne campaign and didn't deliver on that voting data, effectively shielding them from getting in touch with Democratic voters and robbing them at the same time. And, look, you might look at that and say, holy cow, that's wild. But what is really going on here? Is it like some individual incompetent people or what? Well, Marianne has some thoughts on that, and it's a lot more nefarious and deeper than you think. So let's watch. Here she is on TYT, and they address this.
As you're living this now for the second time, what is it that you think actually causes that mechanism? How does it get put into play? Because I don't think it's a memo. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think the New York Times and the Washington Post talk and say, hey, let's make sure we keep out Marianne.
Oh, I think they do.
Okay, interesting. Go ahead.
I absolutely think they do. I can't tell you how many times we've been booked and then it's canceled.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course they do. She's not, don't have her on. Absolutely. You better believe it. Don't have her on. Yeah, no, that's exactly how it works. And the hit pieces and the smears and the president's press secretary coming onto the podium at the White House to mock me. Absolutely, it's intentional. And it's intentional because they know that I'm saying the things. It's not like they don't know that these are the popular positions. They do know that these are the popular positions. So they say, don't let her on to say it because she could start a wildfire. And that's why I feel that the 10% I have, given the blackballing, given the hits, I'm thinking we're doing pretty well.
Let's stop and think about that for a second. There was a New York Times poll that just came out, which is a gold standard poll. She was still at 10% in that poll with a complete media blackout. 10% is higher than a lot of these candidates who are being taken very seriously. Mike Pence gets taken very seriously. Vivek Ramaswamy, who's been surging recently, is taken very seriously. They're at about 10%. In some polls, Vivek and Mike Pence are below 10%. So Marianne Williamson is polling only behind Trump, DeSantis in most polls, and Biden and RFK. So all these other people who are getting serious coverage, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Mike Pence, Vivek Ramaswamy, why are they getting more coverage and more positive coverage than Marianne Williamson when she's at 10% despite a complete media blackout? It's dark, man. This is dark stuff. Okay, now they go on. She talks more about this a little bit later in the interview. Let's listen.
Anything that leads you to believe the institutional power of the Biden administration affecting decisions, whether it's the DNC or affecting the media itself?
All I know is we'll make a deal with a vendor and then get a call from the vendor. Oh, I'm really sorry. We really like you, but we can't do this.
Oh, wow.
Oh, over and over and over again. And there's one state, I don't want to say what it is. I can't, we try to hire someone and they're really excited. And then 2 days later, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be able to do this. Clearly, whether it's as simple as if you help her, you will not work in this town again. You will not work for the DNC. Oh, it's smutty out there.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
It's like, wow.
So according to Marianne, what she's saying, oh no, this is definitely intentional. This is definitely intentional. They're putting their finger on the scale. Listen, Marianne, and again, I know this from high up officials in the Marianne campaign. She's trying to go on as many media outlets as possible and get her message out wherever possible. And what'll happen is MSNBC, CNN, maybe, if she's lucky, she'll get on one of their like C or D tier shows that has very few viewers, right? Somebody who's tucked away on the weekend or something, or somebody who's on the MSNBC streaming platform. And she's lucky if she even gets that. And then she'll go on. She doesn't get invited back. None of the big shows invite her on. There's been instances where she's had something settled and then she gets bumped and booted for somebody else to come in and do the interview. The only mainstream media